What if the perfect summer love story you believed in ends with heartbreak instead of happily ever after? That's exactly what the shocking finale of The Summer I Turned Pretty Season 3 Episode 8 delivers. Fans who thought Belly's engagement would seal her fate with the boy she chose are left stunned when everything unravels in the most unexpected way. The finale doesn't just challenge Belly's heart, it shakes the foundation of every relationship at Cousins Beach. So let's dive into how Episode 8 built up to this moment, and why the engagement, once seen as a dream come true, was destined to break apart from the very beginning. The road to this finale wasn't simple, and Episode 7 played a huge role in setting up the heartbreak that was about to unfold. Belly's decision to accept Jeremiah's proposal came across as the closure to her long and complicated love triangle. For Jeremiah, this was the moment he had always dreamed of, proof that Belly had finally chosen him over his older brother. He saw the engagement as a promise of stability, a way to erase years of feeling like second best. Belly, on the other hand, seemed swept away by the idea of security, of finally ending the back and forth that had defined her summers. But beneath the excitement, Episode 7 showed subtle cracks. Small moments hinted at Belly's unresolved emotions. For Conrad, a lingering glance, a quiet pause, a hesitation in her voice, tiny signs that she wasn't as sure as she wanted everyone, and maybe even herself, to believe. As the engagement news spread, it brought different reactions from the people closest to them. For Jeremiah, there was a sense of triumph, as though he had finally won the battle for Belly's heart. But for Conrad, the pain was impossible to hide. His calm exterior in Episode 7 masked a storm of emotions, and viewers could sense his heartbreak. In every silent scene he shared with Belly, even though he tried to step back, his presence loomed heavily over Belly's decision. Friends and family members reacted with mixed feelings too. Some saw it as a bold step forward, while others quietly questioned whether it was too soon or too uncertain. This undercurrent of doubt set the perfect stage for the drama that was about to explode in Episode 8. The emotional buildup also came from the setting itself. Cousins Beach. The show has always used this backdrop as more than just scenery. It's a character on its own, holding memories, secrets, and unfinished business. Every corner of the beach house, every late-night walk, carried reminders of summers past. For Belly, the beach represented her journey from childhood to adulthood, but it also symbolized her tangled feelings. When she stood on the same sands where she once laughed with Conrad, the weight of her choice to be with Jeremiah felt heavier. By Episode 7, Cousins Beach wasn't just a place of comfort. It had become a mirror reflecting all the love, heartbreak, and decisions that had shaped her. In many ways, Episode 7 made it clear that Belly's engagement was more about trying to hold on to a dream than actually stepping into a future she was ready for. The happiness looked picture-perfect on the surface. Miles, laughter, and plans for what came next. But just beneath that surface was a storm of doubts, and fans could sense that something wasn't right. The finale was always going to be about exposing those doubts. And Episode 7 carefully planted every seed that would grow into the heartbreak of Episode 8. It reminded us that while engagements can symbolize, they can also expose whether a relationship is truly strong enough to last, or if it's just a fragile promise waiting to shatter. Asterisk. The moment fans had been waiting for finally arrived. The engagement scene. What should have been the most romantic and defining chapter of Belly's life instead unraveled into one of the most heartbreaking. At first, it all seemed perfect. Jeremiah, glowing with pride, was ready to show the world that Belly was his. That after years of feeling like the shadow behind his brother, he had finally secured the love of the girl who once wavered between them. But perfection rarely lasts in Cousins Beach, as the vows of commitment began to form. A heavy silence lingered in the air, almost as if everyone present felt something wasn't right. The smiles looked a little too forced, the laughter a little too thin. And in Belly's eyes, there was something Jeremiah refused to seed out. The cracks in their engagement weren't loud at first. They came quietly, like whispers of truth. Belly couldn't silence anymore. Conrad's presence weighed on her in ways she tried to ignore. A single look from him across the room was enough to remind her of everything unsaid between them. Every promise left hanging in the air from summers passed. Jeremiah noticed too, though he tried to laugh it off, brushing away the tension with his usual charm. But charm couldn't erase the way Belly's voice shook when she spoke about their future, or how her smile faltered whenever Conrad's name came up. Slowly, the engagement meant to symbolize certainty began to feel like a fragile glass ready to crack under the smallest touch. As episode 8 unfolded, the atmosphere grew heavier. Jeremiah, eager to hold on, pressed harder for reassurance. He spoke about their plans, their forever, and tried to convince both Belly and himself that this was what she truly wanted. But the more he pushed, the more Belly pulled back. Her heart was torn between the comfort Jeremiah offered and the undeniable pull toward Conrad that she couldn't bury. It wasn't that she didn't care for Jeremiah, she did. But care and forever aren't always the same thing. And in that moment, Belly began to realize the difference. The proposal that once seemed like the ending of her story was suddenly revealing itself as just another crossroads. The most devastating moment came when the truth could no longer hide. Belly's hesitation was impossible to mask, and Jeremiah's worst fear was confirmed. His face shifted from joy to pain as he understood what was happening, not through words, but through the silence between them. This wasn't the fairy tale ending he thought he had secured. Instead, it was the unraveling of a dream he had built around Belly, a dream she couldn't fully step into. Fans watching the finale felt every second of this unraveling, the sharp sting of betrayal, the weight of unspoken love, and the heartbreak of watching something fragile fall apart. What was meant to be a promise became a breaking point, and in that moment, the engagement that once felt unshakable shattered before everyone's eyes. Asterisk, when the engagement finally broke apart. The fallout spread through Cousins Beach like a storm no one could escape. For Belly, the moment was almost surreal. One second she was standing in a dream she thought she wanted, and the next she was watching it collapse in front of everyone she loved. The weight of guilt settled in first. She had said yes, she had made promises, and now she was tearing them apart. But alongside that guilt came a strange sense of relief, a release she didn't expect. Deep down, Belly knew that living a lie would have been far worse than breaking Jeremiah's heart in that moment. Her tears weren't just for the end of an engagement, they were for the years of confusion, indecision, and longing that had finally caught up to her. Jeremiah, on the other hand, was consumed by devastation. For him, Belly's hesitation wasn't just about the engagement, it felt like history repeating itself. All his life he had fought against the invisible comparison to Conrad, always trying to prove that he was just as good, just as deserving of love. And now, standing in the wreckage of his proposal, all those insecurities came rushing back. His voice, once filled with hope and certainty, now carried the raw edge of anger. He accused Belly of never truly choosing him, of using him as a safety net when Conrad broke her heart. Every word cut deeper than the last, and though some came from pain more than truth, they revealed Jeremiah's deepest fear, that no matter what he did, he would never be enough. Conrad's reaction was quieter, but no less powerful. He didn't rush to claim victory or try to take Belly's hand in triumph. Instead, he stood on the edges, his face a mixture of sorrow and understanding. For Conrad, this wasn't about winning. It was about watching Belly wrestle with the same emotions he had buried for so long. He saw the cracks long before anyone else did, and though it hurt to see Jeremiah's heart break, part of him knew this was inevitable. His silence spoke volumes. It wasn't indifference. It was the weight of love restrained. The kind of love that doesn't celebrate when someone else falls, but instead waits patiently, knowing the story isn't over yet. The ripple effects didn't stop with the three of them, family and friends, who had been caught up in the whirlwind of wedding plans and future dreams, were now left reeling. Susanna's absence was felt more than ever. Her wisdom, her gentle way of guiding the boys, might have softened the blow, but now the fissure. Family felt splintered again. Laurel struggled to comfort her daughter, torn between pride in Belly's honesty and sorrow for the pain it caused. Even the beach house itself seemed weighed down by the silence, the once lively walls now echoing with tension and broken trust. Cousins Beach, once a sanctuary of love and growth, had become the stage for a heartbreak no one could avoid. For fans, this fallout was both gut-wrenching and unforgettable. It wasn't just about an engagement being called off. It was about the consequences of choices, the fragility of young love, and the painful truth that sometimes you can't protect everyone from heartbreak. Belly's decision may have freed her from a path she wasn't ready for, but it also left a trail of broken hearts behind her. The finale made one thing clear. Every finale in the summer I Turned Pretty carries more than just drama. It carries meaning woven into every choice the characters make. Episode 8's shattered engagement wasn't only about Belly breaking a promise to Jeremiah. It was a statement about growth, honesty, and the painful transition from fantasy into reality. The writers didn't design this ending just to shock fans. They crafted it to remind us that love isn't always about who makes you smile in the moment, but about who your heart truly belongs to when the noise fades. Belly's broken engagement became a mirror of the entire series' theme, that summer romances may feel endless. But growing up means deciding which love survives when the season changes. Belly's journey in this finale is more than the collapse of a relationship. It was her first real act of courage. For 3 seasons, she's been torn between her feelings for Jeremiah and Conrad, often letting circumstances push her one way or the other. Accepting Jeremiah's proposal seemed like a way to end the tug of war, to choose stability instead of uncertainty. But in walking away from that promise, Belly showed that true maturity isn't about choosing the safest option. It's about facing the truth, no matter how much it hurts. She realized that love without complete conviction would never last, and that choosing Jeremiah while her heart still ached for Conrad would only trap all 3 of them in a cycle of pain. This moment transformed Belly from a girl caught between 2 brothers into a young woman brave enough to stand on her own. The engagement itself also worked as a symbol. Weddings usually represent beginnings, but here it became an ending, the end of Jeremiah's dream. It's the end of Belly's illusion that she could silence her feelings for Conrad, and the end of their shared idea that love could be forced into neat boxes. The shattered promise was like the breaking of a mirror, jagged pieces, reflecting all the truths they tried to hide. For Jeremiah, the ring wasn't just jewelry. It was proof that he finally came first. When it slipped away, it wasn't just Belly he lost, but the validation he had craved for years. For Conrad, watching the engagement collapse wasn't about swooping in as the victor, but about seeing undeniable proof that what existed between him and Belly could never be erased, no matter how hard they both tried. Even Cousins Beach played its role in this symbolism. The ocean waves crashing outside during the engagement scene mirrored the chaos inside the house. The beach has always symbolized fleeting summers, youth, and the bittersweet nature of time. By ending the season with a broken engagement against this backdrop, the show reminded fans that summer love is often as temporary as the tide beautiful. Intense but never fully in our control. Yet, just as the waves return, so too does the hope for new beginnings. Belly walking away from Jeremiah didn't close the door on love. It opened a new path, one where she finally confronts her heart honestly. And then there's the bigger picture. Show's message about growing up. The Summer I Turned Pretty has always been about more than romance. It's about the painful lessons of youth, the mistakes that shape us, and the truth that sometimes love means letting go. Belly's broken engagement wasn't just a plot twist, it was a rite of passage. By ending Season 3 with this heartbreak, the writers set the stage for something deeper in Season 4, not just who Belly will choose, but whether she can finally step into adulthood with clarity and strength. The finale wasn't a cruel ending. It was an honest one, showing that sometimes the most beautiful part of love is not the promise, but the courage to face the truth. Asterisk the moment the credits rolled on Episode 8, fans everywhere were left speechless. Social media lit up like wildfire. Timelines overflowing with heartbreak, shock, and heated debates. Some viewers cried over Jeremiah's pain, calling the finale cruel and unfair to the boy who had given Belly nothing but loyalty. Others argued that this was the closure Belly needed, that living a half-truth would have destroyed her happiness in the long run. And then there were the Conrad supporters, who saw this twist not as a victory, but as a long-awaited acknowledgement that Belly's heart had never truly let go of him. Within minutes, hashtags like hashtag Team Jeremiah and hashtag Team Conrad began trending, turning the finale into a cultural moment where every fan felt compelled to pick a side. But the finale wasn't just about dividing the fandom, it was about uniting them in raw emotion. Some fans posted reaction videos, tears streaming down their faces as they replayed the engagement shattering. Others flooded forums with essays dissecting every glance, every line of dialogue, as though decoding a secret message from the writers. The heartbreak didn't just belong to Belly, Jeremiah, and Conrad belonged to the audience who had invested 3 seasons into their tangled love story. It was the kind of ending that leaves you restless, replaying scenes in your mind long after the episode ends, wondering what could have been done differently and what it all really means for the future. Beyond the debates, there was also a wave of admiration for the storytelling itself. Viewers praised the writers for daring to end the season with such a bold choice, refusing to give a neatly tied bow on Belly's engagement. Instead, they leaned into the essences of young love. The truth that not every chapter ends with celebration. Fans recognized the courage it took to write an ending that hurt, but in its pain felt real. Because in real life, love stories don't always end with a ring and a kiss. They end with hard decisions, shattered promises, and the hope that something stronger will rise from the wreckage. And of course, the finale sparked endless speculation about what's next. Will Belly and Conrad finally face their feelings in Season 4? Can Jeremiah ever forgive her? Or will this fracture his bond with both Belly and his brother forever? Will the Fisher family find healing after yet another summer of heartbreak? These questions kept fans buzzing, filling TikTok edits, Twitter threads, and Reddit theories with predictions about the next chapter. The uncertainty is what makes the show so addictive, the knowledge that nothing is ever final at Cousins Beach, that every ending is just another beginning waiting to unfold. The shattered engagement wasn't simply a dramatic twist. It was a turning point. For Belly, it meant stepping away from what was easy and confronting what was true. For Jeremiah, it meant facing a heartbreak that could shape him for years to come. For Conrad, it was proof that some connections can't be erased, no matter how hard you try to bury them. And for the fans, it was a reminder of why they fell in love with this series in the first place, because it makes them feel everything: joy, anger, heartbreak, and hope all in one summer story. The finale didn't just shatter an engagement, it shattered expectations, leaving fans desperate for answers and already counting down the days until Season 4, asterisk, even though the finale ended with Belly's engagement in pieces. The story doesn't stop there. In fact, Section 6 is where the true weight of the ending begins to settle, not only for the characters but for the audience trying to process what comes next. The broken engagement isn't just a single event. It's the spark that sets the stage for new conflicts, deeper wounds, and questions that Season 4 will be forced to answer. It's the kind of ending that leaves every character standing at a crossroads, unsure of whether to rebuild, walk away, or finally face the truths they've been avoiding for years. For Belly, Section 6 represents a reckoning, walking away from. Jeremiah wasn't just about ending an engagement. It was about admitting to herself that she can't live a life built on half-hearted choices. She now stands in the uncomfortable place between freedom and regret. There's relief in knowing she didn't trap herself in a future she wasn't ready for, but also a deep sadness in realizing how much pain her decision caused. The summer that once symbolized youth and love has now turned into the summer that forced her to grow up. Belly's next step will define not just who she loves, but who she becomes. Does she take time to find herself, or does she finally stop? Running from her feelings for Conrad, this unresolved question, is what makes the finale's aftermath so powerful. It's not the end of her love story, the beginning of her self-discovery. Jeremiah, meanwhile, is left in pieces. The finale was brutal for him, not just because he lost Belly's engagement, but because it confirmed the insecurities he has carried his whole life. Section 6 explores his pain beyond anger. It digs into the quiet devastation of someone who gave his whole heart and still wasn't chosen. Jeremiah now has 2 battles to fight, one with Belly, whose betrayal feels like the deepest cut, and one with Conrad, who he will always see as the shadow he can't escape. Will he shut down completely, pulling away from both Belly and his brother? Or will he rise from this heartbreak stronger, determined to find love that doesn't make him feel second best? His arc is fragile and raw, and it could set the tone for much of the next season. Conrad's role in this aftermath is more complicated than it appears. He didn't break the engagement, yet his presence was the silent force that made it crumble. Section 6 hints at the guilt he might feel, watching his brother's heartbreak while knowing that his connection to Belly was part of the reason. For Conrad, the challenge isn't just about finally admitting his feelings for Belly, but about facing the cost of those feelings. Does he risk shattering his bond with Jeremiah completely by stepping forward, or does he hold back again, putting loyalty above love? The finale leaves